Good afternoon, guys. This is going to be a very simplified hunter rotation guide with 3 primary, very easy rotations to use, along with some tips and tricks as far as how to deal with movement when necessary and mechanics when necessary as well. This is not going to be your standard, if you're standing still in one place and you're at this haste rating, use this rotation. It's going to be a little bit more in depth as far as dealing with certain bosses, certain raids, when to move, when not to move, etc. Hope you guys enjoy. Now guys, before we get started, there's going to be some main abilities that you're going to use in your rotation as opposed to others. When I mean main abilities, I mean the abilities that you're going to be using a lot when you're attacking a boss, attacking a trash mob, etc. The primary one, as I'm sure you all know, is going to be Steady Shot. Now Steady Shot is our bread and butter as far as DPS goes. Every rotation that we do includes Steady Shot. The only time that you really can use this effectively is if you are standing still and you are not in any danger of needing to move or dodge a mechanic of any kind. If you can stand still and turret, as we say, which means just standing still in one place and doing your easy, simple rotation without moving around, you're going to be using this more than anything else outside of auto shot. So that's number one. Number two is going to be multi-shot. Now, multi-shot is something that you guys should be using quite a bit, especially on multi-trash packs or like multi-mob boss fights. Fathom Lord Carathress comes to mind. Other fights, maybe like Solarian, come to mind when all the ads come out. As far as multi-shot goes, I don't run into many mana issues personally. Maybe you guys do. Now, if you have the mana to spend and you have the mana consumes like I do, multi-shot is something that you basically want to keep on cooldown for the most part. It's very high damage. Using it on single target is definitely a viable thing to do, and it's got a very fast cast time, especially compared to Steady Shot. So I'll be using this basically on cooldown if I'm turreting. However, if I need to move somewhere, say for example Void Reaver has an orb that's about to land on me, I can go to the left or the right, I can go halfway to where I need to be, cast a fast multi-shot, assuming my Arcane Shot is on cooldown, and then continue moving. This has such a fast cast time that you can use it kind of while you're moving if you can just stop for half a second and cast it. Nice little DPS bonus. Multi-shot is what I use more than basically anything else outside of Steady Shot itself. Another thing they're going to be using a lot is going to be Arcane Shot. Arcane Shot I don't use nearly as much as multi-shot. Arcane Shot I usually save for if I need to move around. I keep it in my back pocket in case I need to move on a fight like Void Reaver, in case I need to move on a fight like Vash or KT. Arcane Shot is the only instant spell we have outside of Serpent Sting, where you can cast it while moving and it's still going to be a nice DPS bonus. That does bring me to the last ability that I use quite a bit as far as something that is a shot. Serpent Sting, I use this very, very little. I only use this in niche cases where my Arcane Shot is on cooldown and I'm forced to run somewhere. It's not very effective mana-wise for how much DPS you get out of it, but if you've got the mana to spend, Arcane Shot's on cooldown, and you're running somewhere, use Serpent Sting. It will help you from time to time. Now, while these are the shots that I use primarily, other worthy mentions are going to be Aim Shot. The only time that I use Aim Shot is going to be when I'm pulling a trash pack or a boss, and it's before the actual pull. If you take time out of your rotation to cast a 3-second ability, it's going to be a major DPS loss for the most part. Keep that in mind. Use it on pulls if you can. Ideally, someone with the survival talents or talents that are outside of the BM tree that has the extended attack range can use it. Let them use it, but if you can get inside the attack range and use this without pulling, it's really nice. Gives your tank a lot of threat if you have misdirect up on them. Now outside of those guys, the last thing that I use quite a bit for DPS, especially on trash packs, is going to be Explosive Trap. Explosive Trap is massive damage. It is quite mana costly, so make sure that you've got the mana if you are using it. But if you start a boss or a trash pack very close to them, and you have the time and the global cooldown to use this, I would urge you to use this. It's very effective, very helpful. I find myself using it a lot in trash packs, in bosses, etc. Good afternoon, friends, e-girls, and fellow Rogaine users. Today, we're going to talk about what I consider to be a practical and very simplified approach to the hunter rotation. Now I know there's a lot of information out there concerning different rotations as far as number, semicolon number, which is the ratio to how many steadies you might have to autos, with mixing some multi-shot and Arcane Shot in there. I'm going to push most of that aside, and I'm going to make it very easy, hopefully, for you guys to kind of just gauge where you're at in your rotation, where your swing timer is, and how you can make the best decision with what your haste rating is currently at. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is going to be the standard, very simplified rotation that's known as the French rotation. This is known as 5-5-1-1. And the reason they call it that is because it's going to be 5 steadies, 5 autos, 1 arcane, and 1 multi-shot on each rotation. Now this rotation I don't use very much. The only time that you should be using it all the time is when you have no extra haste rating outside of something maybe small like quick shots or a DST proc. Now it's much more easy to use with a slower weapon. My weapon that I'm currently using is from Prince Malchezaar. 2.9 speed is not bad. You can use it very effectively at this weapon speed. I'm going to kind of show you what it looks like. I get a lot of people asking how they do it. I'm going to show you how I do it, and we'll go from there. So, I'm in Dire Maul. These targets don't die. This is a great place to practice rotations for anybody curious. I'm going to open, and I'm going to show you what I do. I'm going to open with an auto shot, followed by a steady shot, and at the very end of that steady shot, I'm going to spam my multi-shot, and as close to finishing the auto attack as possible, I want that multi-shot to go off. Now what this is going to do is you're going to use very little clipping on your next auto shot to get this done, but inevitably you will clip a little bit when using this, just a heads up. So let's do it. 5-5-1-1 French rotation. Steady shot, spam my multi. I clipped by 0.23 seconds. I let one more go through, and then at the end of this one, I use an arcane shot, just like that. And now I'm back to just using steady and auto, and then this attack right here, I reset. Between each arcane and multi, you want to have one attack with just your steady and just your auto, otherwise your swing timer will get too delayed and you'll be in what I would call kind of a mess. Now there's going to be times where you're doing rotations like this, and your swing timer will inevitably get bugged out. And when I say bugged out, I don't mean it's actually bugged. I mean that your swing timer is so off kilter that you're going to have to reset and probably let an auto attack go through without using any kind of shot. You might be able to get away with throwing a multi-shot or arcane shot in there just because of how fast they are, but I urge you, when you're in a situation where your swing timer is just not looking good and you're clipping shots like mad, just let one auto go through and kind of reset. When you reset, you can get back on track and it becomes very simple to do what it is that you want to do. Now the next rotation I'm going to do is going to be the same thing, but I'm going to kind of show you how I change it as I get auto attacks or quick shots procs. So, pets out, I'm using Aspect of the Hawk now. Now this time, I can get a quick shots proc. If I do it, it's going to change my rotation a little bit, and I'm going to try to keep using 5-5-1-1 even with the attack speed increase of a proc from this. So, let's do it. Now, when I get the proc is entirely RNG dependent. You can go a while without getting one, you can get one immediately, it just depends. So, there we go, we finally have one. Now I'm going to keep trying to do this, but notice how with quick shots, I'm getting way behind on my timer. I just delayed an auto attack by almost a second and a half. So there will be times with this rotation where if your timer's in a good spot, you can try to weave in multi and arcane shots. It's going to be difficult, and there will be times where you have to reset. I don't like that there are straightforward rules for what you should be doing depending on your haste rating. I think that that approach is very stiff, and I don't think that it's very practical as far as a setting is concerned in Raid. What I want you guys to do with your rotation timers is I want you to clip as little as possible while still maximizing the damage that you can, of course. But you need to make sure that you're not just depending on, I'm at this weapon speed because I have this add-on that shows me this weapon speed, so that means I need to be doing this rotation. I like that in theory. It sounds great. There's going to be times in boss fights where you have to move. There's going to be times in boss fights where maybe you have to stop attacking for a moment. There are many factors that come into play as far as when you can start attacking, when you cannot attack, when you need to change your rotation. Throughout a boss fight, I'm getting lusted. Throughout a boss fight, I'm using rapid fire. Throughout a boss fight, I'm using haste potions. I'm getting Aspect of the Hawk procs. Your haste is rapidly changing. So ultimately, you need to feel out what is best for your current rotation. A lot of the times, if I'm ultra hasted, maybe not ultra hasted, but maybe like half hasted, I've got Aspect of the Hawk and maybe Lust, I'll just revert to something simple like a 1-1 rotation. When all else fails, and you don't know what rotation you're supposed to be doing, and it's not your baseline, standard, non-hasted rotation, A good thing to do, if I'm being honest with you, is just a standard 1-1 rotation. What I mean by that is just use one steady for one auto like this. Now, I'm losing a lot of time right now, or at least I was before this proc, because I'm just standing here and the last 20% of my auto attack has nothing to be used as filler. Ideally, you use this filler to throw in things like multi-shot, arcane shot, what have you. Maybe even traps if you're doing trash packs, you know, multi-target boss fights, stuff like that. But if I'm hasted, I mean, there's a few reasons why one-on-one is so great. One-on-one is great because you've got mana issues that you can solve by just using Steady Shot. Steady Shot requires very little mana in comparison to this, and in comparison to that specifically. It's just a great thing to fall back on when you're not sure what the hell it is you're supposed to be doing. Now, on most boss fights, at least for my guild, I've got mana to be throwing in multi and arcane shots. A lot of you guys have longer boss fights, which is perfectly fine. If that's the case, and you're encountering mana issues on a lot of these fights, maybe you want to withhold from using multi and arcane shot as much. Now, there are going to be times where you can. Faster fights like Hydros, faster fights like maybe Leo to some degree. You can get away with spending more mana. Depending on how seriously you want to spend money on mana consumes, is kind of going to dictate how many times you can use multi-shot and arcane shot in a specific boss fight, trash fight, whatever the case may be. Now, the main rotations that I personally use, and I know that there is a chart out there, which I can link in here at some point, with a bunch of different rotations, and it's a nice, fancy, colored graph that has a bunch of different options as far as, you know, 2-5, 2-3, 1-1, and it shows at each haste rating how much DPS those rotations will give you. I think that's great. I think it's really cool. I can appreciate the work that's been done on it. But I think that a lot of people suffer, and I mean a lot of people suffer from trying to overcomplicate the rotations. I think that with a class that has as much theory crafting as ours does, we can get lost in the amount of information that's out there about our rotation. There are 3 primary rotations that I use, and I keep it very simple, and I'm going to explain each one a little bit in depth. The main one that I use, when I'm very hasted, is going to be a 2-1. Now, when I say very hasted, I mean I've got everything up. I've got rapid fire, I've got lust, maybe I've got quick shots, doesn't really matter either way. I'm basically attacking as fast as I can without a DST proc, right? When that happens, I'm going to do what's known as a 2-1. Let me tell my buddy real fast to lust me here in a moment, and I'm going to kind of show you what it is that I do. Lust me in 10 seconds. Okay, I'm lusted. I'm lusted. I'm going to use all my cooldowns here, okay? Boom, boom. I'm going to be doing 1 steady shot for each 2 autos. Just like this. 1, 2, go. 1, 2, go. 1, 2, go. Just like that. Very simple. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but after a while you get used to it. And this is my go-to. Ooh, it kind of glitched out there. This is my go-to for whenever I'm super hasted. Maybe I'm doing my opener in a fight. Maybe we're holding lust for later in the fight, but I have all my CDs, including rapid fire, ready to go. At this point, it doesn't really matter if you have quick shots or not. I'm doing a 1-2 or a 2-1 as much as I can, and that's always my go-to rotation when I'm attacking very, very quickly. I do think it's a little bit more, I don't want to say complicated because it's simple once you get used to it, but it does take some getting used to. I would go and practice it somewhere if you can. If you have an awesome friendly shaman like Selbink here, grab them, go to somewhere that you can use a target dummy like Dire Maul North, and do this for yourself. It makes it really easy to practice. Once you get the hang of it though, I promise you it is very, very, very easy. So I use that only in very specific scenarios where I'm attacking very quickly. When I'm not attacking quickly, it kind of fluctuates. I mean, one big determining factor is whether or not you have procs for this. Procs for this are completely RNG. Maybe you're going to get them fast, maybe you're going to get them slowly. Maybe, like last raid that I had, you're going to get so few that you want to throw your computer out the window. No matter what happens though, you want to watch your swing timer and make sure that it doesn't get to a place where you're clipping too much. I cannot stress the importance of this enough, because if you get into the mindset of you using, you know, this spreadsheet with these rotations for this haste rating, you're going to overthink it. Inevitably, you're going to overthink it. Maybe there's 1 or 2 guys out there that have it down perfectly, and they can rotate with ease according to their haste rotations. I don't know anybody like that. If you find anybody in top logs that does that effectively without losing damage in the long run, please show them to me. I would love to see it. I really would. But so far, I have not seen many examples of people perfectly rotating their rotation depending on the haste rating that they have. So keep it a little bit simplified. Don't overthink it. One thing to watch for is just how much you're clipping your auto attacks. Right now, I'm not clipping any. Now if I start weaving this in, I'm going to start clipping a little bit. 0.23, not bad. If you're throwing a multi-shot or an arcane shot in there, that's pretty good, all things considered. I mean, in a perfect world, we have 0 clipping like this auto attack on every single auto. But once you start getting fancy with it and really trying to squeeze as much DPS as you can, see, this is a bad one right here. 0.94. You don't want to delay auto attack that much. And if you get in the mindset of trying too hard to do these perfect rotations, you are going to clip. I promise you. So once in a while, you'll see me do it all the time in raids. I will just not do anything for a full auto attack. I'll let it go through, and I'll let it reset naturally so I can get back in the swing and control my auto attacks as best I can. I see a lot of people that don't do that. I think that watching this little number here, or watching your bar, is imperative. And despite the fact that you want to squeeze as much DPS out as you can by using Arcane and Multi, there are going to be times where you just need to skip over it and just let the steady and the auto go through on their own. Don't worry about it too much. It does happen. I'm not getting many Hawk procs here at all. But it needs to be a thing that you feel out. Watching this cast bar, watching your swing timer, and watching the little number in the middle for me is my bread and butter as far as knowing what the hell it is I'm supposed to be doing. A lot of people are looking at other factors and not realizing how much it is that they're clipping. I get a lot of logs to review, and I just see so many clipped auto attacks based on people trying too hard to get in arcane shots, multi-shots, which is great. I can appreciate the fact that they're trying to squeeze all the DPS in that they can, but they're inevitably losing out on DPS overall because they're clipping their next auto so much as a result. So I would work on just getting comfortable with your swing timer, more importantly than anything else. Learn when you can weave in multi-shots, learn when you can weave in arcane shots. One quick trick, maybe not a trick, but one thing that I like to do, especially on multi-target trash packs or boss packs, is if I have a Hawk proc and I'm just going like this, I'm going to show you in a sec. I'm going to fish for a Hawk proc and then we'll show you from there. Oftentimes, I won't even really try to squeeze a multi or arcane shot into the same auto attack as a steady when I have a proc from this. What I'll do instead, and what I do at a lot of haste ratings, okay, right here. I'll do one steady, right? One steady, and instead of clipping it, I'll just do a multi-shot for the entire next auto attack. It's not the end of the world if you do that, and inevitably it's going to be a DPS gain, right? Now, can I squeeze an arcane shot in here without losing much? Yeah, 0.4 is not bad. 0.23 after that's not bad, so 0.63 lost in total. Not the end of the world. Not really clean either, and I let my auto reset right there at the very end because my timer got a little bit out of whack. I just let an auto go through and reset. So, for example, if I'm hasted here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to let one auto go through with a steady shot, and then the next auto that I do is going to be just a multi-shot. You can do the same thing with arcane shots. If I'm on a boss where I have to move around quite a bit, and I'm sitting here turreting, maybe like Void Reaver for example. I'm doing this, I'm doing this. An orb is coming towards you from the sky. I have to move because my healers are going to let me die or whatever. Like this. Steady shot, let that one go off. I move, arcane shot just like that. Super simple. Something that you should be doing is using arcane shot when you have to move on fights. Fights like Void Reaver, it's important to use on. Fights like Leotheras, fights like Vash. There are a lot of fights in this tier, Alar as well, where you're going to have to reposition yourself, and turreting will not be something that you can do effectively without dying. A lot of the time, I'm not going to use arcane shot in my rotation at all, unless I have absolutely no haste buffs of any kind. If that's the case, even on a fight where I don't have haste buffs, like Void Reaver, I'm going to be saving arcane shot for when I have to move, most of the time. It's free DPS, there's no reason not to. It's the only instant ability that you have outside of Serpent Sting, which does not work on that boss, which you can use while moving and fit in just a little bit of extra DPS here and there. I'm going to show you guys one fight that I have from an old video, and it's kind of a real-time example of a fight where I'm kind of swapping rotations depending on what's going on. I'm using multi-shot at times, I'm kiting things around at times. It's a fight that's very, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's a chaotic fight. We're going to be changing what you do a lot, and you might be needing to reposition yourself a lot. So I'm going to find it real fast. on my YouTube, and I'm going to kind of walk you guys through how I played it at the time. So, here we are. Okay. Alright, let me adjust my stream settings real fast. Okay, here we go. So, this is a fight for Leotheris that I had. I think this was at the time the rank 2 parse on it. We had a really fast fight. Inevitably, guys, your parses are going to be mostly dependent upon the kill time, how well you do rotation, how well your raid comp suits you, etc, etc. But I'm going to walk you through it piece by piece, and we will go from there, okay? So, maximize, turn the music off. So, I'm a hunter. What I need to do here is I'm going to obviously misdirect to one of our tanks, and after that I'm going to show you how I move, why I move that way, and what I'm thinking when I'm doing each different thing. So I'm going to pull with an Arcane Shot here. Steady Shot would be ideal, but I don't want to risk pulling the boss. So I open with a steady. Auto Shot, another steady and auto shot. Okay. So right here, I've got this mob on the right, the other two mobs are over here, and ultimately I want to be over here, kind of to the left of that bear, right? That is the place that I want to stand and turret for most of the fight. So how do I get from where I'm at right now to there while still squeezing in some DPS in the interim? And this is where it gets interesting. So I'm going to throw one steady at this mob, and then I just fired a multi-shot off, and I'm putting that on cooldown before I move. Now the reason I do this is because it's going to be faster than casting a steady or an auto shot. It's a very fast cast. I've got two mobs right here, so multi-shot is going to be the highest damaging ability that I can use at that time. And I still haven't used Arcane Shot, or at least I have for the pull, but I waited until it was almost back up so that I knew when I was moving, I can use it once again for some free DPS while I'm repositioning. So I'm running over, Arcane Shot. I stop real fast. I want to stop right here, and I can move again in a little bit. But right now, I can kind of stagger my movement, stop again, get some shots off, and then continue on my way. So we kill that one. We swap targets. Lust comes out. Right there, guys, at the end of an auto, I don't have any haste procs yet. I just had Lust activated, but I squeeze a multi-shot in at the very end of my auto. 2 packs left. Multi-shot is a really good ability to use here. It's the ability that you should be using here. So I did that. I clipped a little bit on that auto, not the worst deal in the world. And I'm not clipping at all right here. No clipping, multi-shots on cooldown. Boss comes out, I run a little bit over. I move. As I'm moving, I use another Arcane Shot, okay? And then it's just DPS. I'm going to use cooldowns here. Notice here, I'm going to do the 2-1. It's going to be 2 autos for every 1 steady. And if you guys need to use a multi-shot in place of a steady shot on this rotation, a lot of the time you're going to want to do that. Most of the time I would say that you're going to want to do that. Feel free to do so. Use a multi-shot there. Just very simple. 1, 2, steady. 1, 2, steady. Just like that. Nothing crazy. I've got quick shots up. We've got tons of chicken procs. My pet is attacking very quickly. Okay, most of my haste is gone now. I've got quick shots going. I'm just doing one-on-one. Nothing crazy. I think I'm going to be using a multi-shot very soon here. I clipped this auto. That was bad play on my part. I used a second steady at the end of my current steady shot, and I clipped my next auto by almost a full second. Don't do that. That was one mistake that I made on this fight. I make mistakes like this all the time. We all do. Now here I'd actually say, before I got this quick shots proc, I would say that I misplayed this because I could have fit a steady or an Arcane Shot into the end of the several auto attacks that I had before this. One concern that I've had before on this boss is mana, because we have not utilized Judgment of Wisdom in the past prior to this raid night. But this raid night was the first time that we had full uptime for it. I was kind of watching out for my mana, but in hindsight, after seeing how this fight went, there was no reason at all for me to be conscious of my mana, because my mana bar is at like 80% right now. Boss is at 75% HP. I still have a Dark Rune if needed. I'm fine. Nothing to worry about. I fit a multi-shot in the end right there. I clip a little bit due to it, 0.3 or so. And just very simple. I'm just doing 1-1. Nothing crazy at all. I cancel my Elixir of Agility, I put on a Demon Slaying Elixir, we get a second Lust here. Again, I'm mostly just doing one-on-one here, guys. I'm keeping it very, very simple, and yet we're still inputting or outputting crazy DPS. Now here's where it gets crazy a little bit. One thing that you're going to want to do, especially on a fight like this where you have to really just change it up if you get a demon on you, a lot of people are just going to put their pet on their demon and have the pet kill the demon, whatever the case may be. I wanted to get this demon off me as fast as possible, so here's what I did. As soon as this thing went on me, I'm going to wing clip it. So wing clip right off the bat, I send my pet after it, and I want to keep Arcane Shot and Multi-Shot on cooldown, because outside of auto attacks, those are the two primary things I'm going to be able to use, because I'm not going to be able to stand still long enough to get a steady or an auto shot off on this thing. Despite the fact that it's slowed, I'm going to have to kite for a while if I want to get the distance to get a full cast of either of those off. So instead, I wing clip, I keep my distance a little bit, but I just use the fast abilities like Arcane and Multi, and I get this thing off me super fast. So watch. Turn around, jump, Arcane Shot, kill command, Multi-Shot, almost dead at this point. I use one more Arcane Shot, it's dead. 2 Arcane Shots, 1 Multi-Shot, and my pet attacking it. Know when to use the fast spells, and know when you need to use things like Steady and Auto Shot. I don't know why my pet runs back at me here, but the rest of this fight is pretty simple. I use a Misdirect, I miss out on some DPS because of it due to the threat reset. It's all pretty simple stuff. But the main things I wanted to show you guys there was how I opened while needing to reposition myself, and how I dealt with the demon there, depending on the spells that I have available to me. Pretty simple at the end. Yeah, I skipped an entire steady shot there. Not a good play on my part, but that's it. That's it. So, back to this. I'm going to do one more quick rotation with haste, and then I'm going to make a new segment. Do you have haste up? Give me a moment, guys. Alright. So I'm hasted. That's me trying to fit a multi in at the end of one of my cities. So I tried to fit the multi in. I could probably get an arcane. Doesn't really work that well. When I'm hasted like this with a quick shots proc, you're best off doing 1-1, and you can, you know, do a multi-shot instead. That's not going to delay your timer. Same goes for an arcane shot if you have to. Very simple stuff, guys. Nothing crazy at all. And, yeah. So, in summary, just feel it out. I know that does not sound like good advice, but that really is the best advice that I can give you. Know when you can get away with using certain spells, know when you can't. Right now, as I was hasted, I was not trying to get away with fitting in, or squeezing in rather, a multi-shot or an arcane shot. Now that I'm back to this, a little bit easier. 0.44 delay, nothing too bad. And yeah, that's about it, guys. Love you guys. Hope you get. So we went through the 5-5-1-1, and we've gone through the 2-1 while you're ultra hasted. The last rotation that I do, and I don't want to call it anything specific because I'm always kind of alternating what it is that I'm doing in it. It is just a simple but kind of modified 1 auto to 1 steady rotation. Now a lot of the time in this rotation I will sub out a steady shot for a multi-shot. A lot of the times in this rotation I will stop attacking and I will have Arcane Shot ready. I'll run in, drop a trap on, say, trash packs in either SSC or TK, and then I'll run back out and continue doing what I do. So, I'm not hasted right now. I'm going to fish for a haste proc, and I'm going to show you what that looks like for me. It's very simple. Most of you guys, I'm sure, are already doing this, but I kind of just want to give you an example so you have something to base it on. One of these days, we are going to get a haste proc. It's going to be glorious. It has not yet happened. There we go. Okay, so I'm not going to try to fit in anything crazy. I'm going to use a multi-shot there in place of a steady shot, a couple more steady shots. I want to go and put a trap down. Let's say hypothetically there's a bunch of mobs on this ogre that I'm attacking, and I want to get in there and I want to put a trap down. I'm going to do this. I should have completed that auto, but I'm going to do this, do that, come back out, and start my rotation again, as simply as I can. If you are going to put a trap down and your positioning is maybe too far, say for example, I am all the way back here attacking a trash pack, back here is more realistic, it might not be worth the effort. In a perfect world, you want to start that trash pack or that boss fight as close to those mobs as possible if you do plan on putting a trap down of some kind. Now, if it's possible to slowly make your way up there, you can do that. I missed the end of an auto attack right there. It's just not going to be worth the effort for me, especially in this case. So, as I said, the main 3 rotations I use are going to be 5, 5, 1, 1. If I had the mana right now, I'd be using it. I'm currently out of mana. The 2 and 1 is only for specialized cases in which you are extremely hasted and you have to get more autos in for each steady. And then what I do most of the time, guys, is I really just do varied one-on-one rotations. Our boss fights in my guild are so fast that I'm going to be either hawked with a hawk proc for a lot of it, I'm going to be hasted with lust for a lot of it. There is very little downtime concerned as far as haste procs go, at least for me in my raid for the boss fights. The 2 boss fights that come to mind as far as kind of slower ones where I'm not hasted that much would be Vash and Enthozz. I think everybody can kind of relate to that. Nobody's hasted up for most of those boss fights, which is fine. But guys, one thing to take note of, and this is kind of a little bit off subject, is don't compare yourself, at least right now, to the people at the top. I think that the rank 1 hunter right now is Zoomer, and I think rank 2 is a guildie of his named Tox Loggins. They're in a guild like mine where they have very fast boss kill times and optimized groups. They are definitely very good players, there's no doubt about that, but something that you have to consider is that your group comp, your raid comp, and your kill times are 3 of the biggest, if not the biggest, determining factors in what your parses are going to look like and what your overall DPS is going to look like. You cannot downplay the importance of outside factors as far as how your DPS turns out as a result. I see a lot of guys linking me logs with, like, for example, a 5-minute Hydros fight. There's nothing wrong with that. A 5-minute Hydros is fine, but I don't think they're going to ever reach that 3k DPS range if you don't have a really fast Hydros like someone in my guild has, or someone in a guild like Ride and Dirty has, or Salad Bakers. The best thing to do is to realize where you're making mistakes, how you can better those mistakes, and how much DPS you're doing in relation to the kill times and the raid comp that you have. I consider myself to be a pretty decent hunter. If I'm in a group that does not have a Feral Druid in it, I'm not parsing rank 1 no matter what I do. It is simply not going to happen. Despite the fact that I have very fast boss kill times, despite the fact that I know what I'm doing, or at least I think I know what I'm doing, if you don't have a fully optimized group for buffs, if you don't have a fully optimized raid for kill times, pushing things like rank 1 is going to be very, very difficult, if not impossible. You can still do very well. I have great respect for people that love the guild that they're in, but they want to push themselves to their own limit, and they want to push their previous self. You want to, you go into SSC and say, for example, it's a 2-hour run, but you do 1500 overall trash and boss damage. If someone's in a guild with 2-hour SSC, not a great time, but not terrible either, and you want to better yourself the next week and get maybe 1550 or 1600 DPS, nothing but respect for that, and there is a sense of pride to be had in accomplishing that. Don't downplay it. Parses are cool, they feel good, it's definitely a dopamine rush, at least for me, but there are so many other things that come into play, and never doubt the fact that you can better your own gameplay, even if you can't do things like be the rank 1 hunter, or the rank 2, or rank 50, whatever the case may be. Just know that if you really want to push yourself, and maybe your goal is to be rank 1, as far as Warcraft Logs All-Stars is concerned, if you're in a guild with really slow boss kill times, maybe you need to consider finding a different guild with faster boss kill times. But if you're happy where you're at, and if you just want to do your personal best considering what it is that you're given, I appreciate that. That's awesome, and there are definitely still ways to do that. So I've gone over the 3 primary rotations that I do, guys. If you guys have any questions concerning these rotations, or maybe you have a rotation that you like to do that I'm not really doing or covering, please let me know. As a final note, The best thing that you can do for yourself in regards to maximizing DPS is getting comfortable with your swing timer. Memorizing rotations is great. Learning new tips and tricks as far as when you can weave in multi-shots and arcane shots is great, but ultimately it comes down to feeling out your swing timer. That's what I learned to do. That's what most of the good players learn to do. If you can master this and know what you should be doing at certain intervals when you maybe need to reset your auto shot, that's going to be the biggest thing that you can do to maximize DPS, and it's probably going to be your biggest obstacle as well. If you guys have issues feeling out your DPS and maybe even trying